Hi, everyone. I'm here to talk about taxes, everyone's favorite subject. And before I get started, I'm not a tax accountant. I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not your accountant. This is just an explanation of the 1099. And a lot of people get very confused by this form because it doesn't add up. It's not meant to add up. It's a reporting form that Etsy has to send to everybody on Etsy who makes over a certain number of sales and a certain income threshold. Those numbers are changing. So I'm not even going to mention numbers, but in the following, in the years coming up, more people are going to be getting these forms and everyone's going to be very confused. So the important thing to remember about the 1099 form is that it's not meant for you to reconcile things. I have never, I think there was 1 year when I could get everything to add up 100% correctly, because a lot of times they'll take figures that are from January 31st and put them in February 1st, and they break it out by month. It's an income reporting form, so it'll have your income listed out by month, but sometimes it's off by a little bit, and then you realize that the next month is off by a little bit, but it's the same amount. So they took things that were, late on January 31st, put them in February 1st or whatever. It's very difficult to reconcile. And it's also confusing because it is not the same amount of money that goes into your bank account. It's two separate things. And the 1099 is gross revenue. That includes all money that the customer pays to your account on paper, okay? But it doesn't include things like fees and discounts and the cost of your shipping labels. And if Etsy collects sales tax for you and does not send it in, which is unusual these days, I think they do that for most states. But if Etsy collects sales tax and then you have to send it in, that is included. But if Etsy does send it in, it's not included. And again, there are two articles, I think. I'll post both articles under this, and you can go read those directly. It might answer a lot of questions for you. But a lot of people will look at their bank account deposits and say, why isn't this the number on my 1099? It has nothing to do with it. It's right. It has nothing to do with it because the 1099 is just your gross income, that everything that's paid to you on paper, like I said, because if somebody pays you $10 for something and they have a 20% discount, then they're really only paying you $8, but the purchase price says $10, and that's what's reported on the 1099. After that, there's a discount of $2 for the 20%, and then Etsy takes its fees, and there's payment processing fees, and if you have to buy a shipping label, that comes out of that. So the amount that you're paid in your bank account is going to be a lot less than $10, but because the customer paid you $10 on paper, that's how much gets reported on the 1099. Nothing is going to add up, I promise you. And for myself, I have more than one source of income. So when I'm doing my taxes, as long as all my 1099s add up to less than what I'm actually reporting to the IRS, I don't worry about it. I get it relatively close. Like I do go and make sure that the numbers are pretty close, but if it doesn't add up 100%, I'm not going to worry about it too much. And if the IRS ever wants to audit me, I would love to watch their heads explode when they try to figure out Etsy's bookkeeping system, because it makes no sense. All right. The other thing to mention is that if you have multiple Etsy shops, they're all recorded on one 1099. So if you have, like myself, I have 3 Etsy shops, and when they send me the 1099, you have to add up all, it's a mess. You have to add up everything from your Etsy shops. It's all reported on one form, and it's very difficult to figure this out. It's complicated. It's a hot mess. But like I said, as long as my income that I'm reporting to the IRS is higher than this, the 1099 is a reporting form just so that people aren't, saying that they earn less than they did. And that is sent to the IRS so they have a copy. So don't try to lie. Just put the numbers down. But you will have to put those numbers down when you're filing your taxes and filling out your Schedule C. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that if you have off Etsy sales, like if you're not using Etsy payments, you're at a market and you're using Stripe and that kind of thing, and it is connected to your Etsy inventory, that is not included. So this is just the stuff that goes through Etsy payments, as far as I know. Again, I will link these 2 articles and you can read those to see, what the situation is with that. But you might have to have that as an excess, like an external source of income, because that's not reported on the 1099 for Etsy. Again, it's very complicated. I do have an article on the Artisan Shopping Directory blog about Etsy bookkeeping, and in that article I have spreadsheets where you can download them, and it tells you exactly which spreadsheet, because Etsy, again, they have multiple spreadsheets for this, and they don't line up. If you take the orders from one spreadsheet and compare them to the others, it's not the same order. That's why I said, like, if I get audited, I would love to have them try to figure this out. But I have figured it out for you. I've put some spreadsheets in that article that you can download. It tells you exactly which spreadsheet to go to and what column to look at to get the information that you need to at least get close to what's on the 1099 and figure out if your numbers are adding up and if you are reporting everything that you need to report. So I'll put the link to that article in the description of the video also. But you need to pay attention to this, because as the year progresses, we're going to get closer to the point where a lot more people are going to get the 1099, and it's going to be very confusing if you think it's supposed to be the same numbers that are in your deposit account, because it's not. And by no means is it. It's just the gross revenue on paper before they take all the fees, discounts, all that stuff out. So leave me any questions if you have them, but before you leave me questions, please go read those articles if you do have questions, because it'll probably answer them for you. And if you continue to have questions, I would check with an accountant. Let them try to figure it out, because I've heard people say their accountants are just like, oh my God, what is all this? It makes no sense, because it doesn't. Sometimes you just have to breathe and move on. Okay. But make sure that you are reporting at least what Etsy says that you've received, because that's the gross income that you should be reporting before you take out all of your expenses on your taxes. So give this video a thumbs up, leave me any questions, and I will talk to you later.